Welcome back to the ZERT Coffee and Chaos podcast, a show where we talk about anything and everything relating to what it means to be a survivalist and a prepared individual in today's society. I'm your host, Chris Bartagone, ZP002. Back with me on the show today, Paul Taylor, Mr. X. Welcome back to the show, my man.
Appreciate it, buddy. It's been a while.
It has been. It has been. Well, it's been a while since you've been on the show. It's been a couple of weeks, but not. I mean, and we're 2 weeks away from, or 2 weeks past our little adventure in Oklahoma, and what an adventure it was.
Yeah, definitely was. It was an adventure.
But time just goes by, which is also it's funny. I recorded a show after we got back, and that show actually got published at the day of this recording, so which is 2 weeks or a week and a half post election. So it's been an exciting week and a half in our country with the news of the president-elect Donald Trump winning the presidency, obviously winning the becoming number 47. And since then, we have gotten confirmation that the Republicans have gained control of the Senate and the House. And so it's an exciting time. We'll see what that means. There's a lot of things happening. He is starting to make his appointments, but it has been a wild week. A lot of speculation out there. The interwebs is just a not safe place for people out there today. There's been a lot of people that are screaming at their computer screens, which are just hilarious to watch. I'm not going to lie. It is entertaining. I don't know if you've seen a lot of them, but man, there are some geniuses out there that are remixing some of those into music, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, I've checked a few of them out. One of the things I've taken pride in the last couple years is I don't have cable. It's because I don't want to deal with the shenanigans of cable and the media. I mean, well, I'm not even going to get into the mainstream media at this point, but since the election, I've found out that since I don't have cable and I can't watch the news, a lot of these cable programs are on YouTube. Like they'll post a YouTube video the next day. So I get a kick out of watching all these networks talk about stuff the next day and basically breaking down. And I got to tell you, man, I hate to say this, you might want to delete this out, but I've become a huge fan of The View within the last week.
Oh, wow.
To watch, before, and it's not, I mean, it's just, they have people on there and sometimes they have different opinions, but man, sometimes people, like you say, just watching this stuff, watching people just, I don't want to say make excuses for everything, but I think that's we're a nation of excuses and well, why I don't do this and why this happened and why this didn't happen. And it's like, man, just, I don't know. I think we just need to, tend to live by the phrase or try to suck it up, buttercup. Life is going to go on.
Right.
We do everything that we can with our, it's like I've always said, one person, one vote doesn't always go your way. And if it doesn't, 4 years from now, 2 years from now for the House, I guess, you get an opportunity to go out there and vote again. But we're in charge of our own destiny out there. And we do our part, no matter what it is, whether it's training or knowledge or whatever. But
and anybody that's listening to this, I'm sure hoping that you voted. Anyone that maybe will listen to this that is upset the way the election went and you didn't vote, kick rocks. That's on you. If you can't, if you voted, you have a stance and you can be upset that it may not have gone your way. But if you didn't vote and you're all pissed off and you're screaming at your little screen, your little phone screen, I don't know what you're screaming for. You were not a part of the equation. So, you can't really chime in about it. But you're right. It's on us. It's on us to get things done, whether it's to vote, to train, to gain knowledge. It's out there. It's waiting for you. You just have to seize it. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. But anyway, we are 2 weeks now post Spectre, right? Is it going into
almost like it was just yesterday?
I know it really does. And it's funny, a buddy of mine called me this morning. He was like, "How'd it go out there?" And I was like, "I mean, it was great, until we woke up to tornado sirens on our phones Sunday morning. So we had to kind of course correct on our training, and we're going to get into that today." But he just starts laughing. He's actually from Oklahoma. He actually went out to Oklahoma with me that first time when we had the huge meet and greet out there. So that was pretty awesome. He got to see that, and coincidentally, he works in Juarez, Mexico now, so he gets to cross the border every day and go deal with stuff like that. So that's fun.
Yeah, I think you have like a different ringtone every time somebody calls you, different alarms and different this. And when we got that tornado warning in the middle of the night, I was just like, now who's got this weird ringtone on Chris's phone? And I reached over and grabbed, I was like, well, shoot, that's my phone. I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
tornado warning, what? And then I think 5 minutes later, I got a text from Jack that said, welcome to Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And what's interesting about what you just said there is my phone is set on an alarm every night to go into sleep mode. So at 11 p.m. it turns on sleep mode, which means that it just silences everything until 7:30 a.m. And if you would try to call me, text message me, nothing goes through. But that was at 5 something in the morning, we got that alert and it went right through. So it's interesting to see how technology says, screw your sleep schedule. We're going to let you know that there's a tornado warning in effect.
well, it's pretty important that trumps your
Exactly.
quiet time,
Right. Right.
your alone time that you don't want
Yes,
bothered. So
it
that's a
is.
good thing.
But I mean, I've not heard that noise ever on my phone, with the exception of it's the same alert that goes off if the alarm at HQ is triggered. So I was trained to wake up to that. I was like, holy cow, somebody's broken in, except it wasn't that. It was something else. But interesting enough, we did wake up for it. We did have what was that? It was like a hour and a half back and forth on what we were going to do because we didn't know what we were showing up to.
Yep. Yeah, it was yeah, we definitely had to figure some stuff out. So
Yeah. But for those of you that do not know, I'm going to give out a little bit of admin work right now, a little admin information. For those of you that are here today, thank you for joining us on the show today. As you are aware, we always publish our shows. They go live on Thursdays, usually by 8 in the morning. The audio version on Shopify and on Apple Podcasts. And then we release the video portion on YouTube after that the show has already been out. So if you have not already gone over to the YouTube channel, please head over there and do that. Subscribe to the channel, like this video when you see it, smash the little bell button so you get notified when we launch more videos like this and like the ones that we have been putting up specifically recently about our new loyalty program over on the ZERT website. Now, the more you buy, the more points you earn. And you don't only get points when you buy stuff, you get points when you leave product reviews, when you sign up, when you refer a friend, all points that can be used to get discounts and more. So a lot of exciting things happening over on the ZERT website. And it's stuff ranging from membership to t-shirts to patches to lapel pins to all of the new stuff that we've added, like ammunition for all of your training needs. So lots of exciting things. That being said, let's get into what we use some of that ammunition for as of late. Project Spectre Phase 1 has been completed in Rose, Oklahoma. Paul, why don't you get into a little bit how Project Spectre came to be? I mean, it was a nice quiet morning for you until I decided to text you.
yeah. Oh man. Well, actually, man, you might need to remind me. It's been a few months since we discussed Spectre and
Yeah.
a lot of the things that this might progress into, and we're not going to let any cats out of the bag yet.
No, of course not.
But we're always looking to kind of develop training opportunities for not only ZERT members, but man, just people out there. And
Yeah.
so if we've talked about this plenty of times, you don't have to be a ZERT member to come and take our training. Now, I think there might be discounts available, especially in the future. So be who of you to be a ZERT member and sign up before class and all that stuff. But it's not just limited to ZERT members, but we We pay attention to the state pages, and
Yes.
we look at the training that the state pages are doing, and I think that it's absolutely great that the states out there, two come to mind. And the funny thing is both of those states kind of represented themselves during Project Spectre, and I watch, and it doesn't have anything to do with the other states out there.
No.
And we talked about this in Oklahoma, and we've talked about this many times. Is I'm bringing up the two states, North Carolina and Oklahoma. And if you guys didn't know, most of you guys probably do. Ken from North Carolina
Yeah.
drove to Oklahoma to take the
Yeah.
class for the first day. He showed up, was at the meet and greet, took the class the first day, had a great time. At least I hope he did. I did. It's always good to see him.
Oh
He's
yeah.
taken plenty of our classes.
Yep.
And the cool thing is to see how Ken runs North Carolina and how Jack runs Oklahoma. And they couldn't be two different
Oh.
POCs.
Oh yeah.
And I think they're both doing a great job, and they're doing it to their strengths. They're doing it to,
Yeah.
you're not putting any guidelines saying, hey, you got to do this, 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 and this. You let them
No.
run with it.
Yeah.
And they absolutely do. And they got two really great products in their
Oh yeah.
individual states. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. And just to kind of go into that, I mean, every one of our POCs, our state POCs, kind of handles their state differently, and with the amount of information that they put out and the amount that they engage with the members. Something that has always been kind of a motto with ZERT is, and it'll never change, is that ZERT is what you make of it. And if you make it your main kind of brand, like it's what you love about ZERT, and you push that forward and you push that out, people are going to kind of respond to that. And you can take it as far as you are at every single meet and greet. You're always active on the pages. You're at all of the state run range days that are happening. I love it, but if you just want to be a part of it to get the discounts that we provide with ZERT affiliate members and, show up once in a while, that's also awesome. But, guys like Jack and guys like Ken out there, they're really pushing that forward. That whole, I mean, they believe in it. They love it. They love what this organization has done. Much like you, I know that you talk about it as well. I mean, and for the same for me, it's always been a part of my world, and I know that it is for you. And you've met some great people. Like you said, you would have never met Ken if it wasn't for ZERT. I mean, same thing, same here. Like, some of these great people that we're connected to.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to just talk about Ken and Jack because they're
No, of
doing
course.
great things, but I want
Yeah.
everybody to understand that it takes a village.
Yeah.
They're doing great things, but man, they got a great support network behind them. I know Jack or Ken down in North Carolina, man, they get a group of they get such a large variety of ZERT members that go to these matches.
Yeah.
And I think the owner of the range is a ZERT member, and they're doing great things down there, but he's not doing it by himself. I don't know everything. The cool thing about a special forces team, I was
Yeah.
I had specific jobs, but the things that I didn't know, I know first aid, but I'm not a medic.
Right.
So, you've got the crew in Pennsylvania, that gives medical classes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could probably give a class, but I'm not qualified to give a class. I want a
Right.
subject matter expert out
Right.
there. Ken
Yeah.
has a group of people in Oklahoma, or Jack has a group of people in Oklahoma. Ken has a group of people in North Carolina. And the larger we can make this family, this village, and I got to tell you, man, Ken's got a big village. I mean, they are hopping and popping. I guarantee you, and I don't want to dive too much into Sunday morning, but
You mean Jack?
Jack, I keep
Yeah.
getting them mixed up, but Jack in Oklahoma, as soon as I woke up and I went to the Oklahoma ZERT page, I saw everybody checking up on each other.
Oh
Man, a
yeah.
tornado came through. I
Yeah.
went down in the lobby, and the girl behind the lobby's like, yeah, it went through my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now you have those ZERT members out there that are looking after each other, checking
Oh
on
yeah.
each other. I'm not even talking about the stuff that happened on the range.
Right.
I'm talking
Right.
real life stuff
Oh
that
yeah.
was that we
Yeah.
were right there for. And
Yeah.
everybody, it's the checks. And it's like, this is what this ZERT family is all about. And I thought it was amazing. And you saw it North Carolina with everything that went on
Yeah.
down there, everybody
Florida,
looking
same
after
thing.
each other, Florida,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
just what this network, this family's all about.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And that's, and that's what I love about the comms portion of ZERT, that Zello check-in that they do weekly, and they have people checking in from all over. Obviously, we just launched the ZERT Discord channel, so now that's our new forum. The forum that we had in the past, it's not available, and there's a lot of people out there, and I get my hands into the emails once in a while here that come in, and there's people that are like, hey, listen, I just joined, but I don't really do Facebook. How can I communicate, or how can I stay in touch, and how can I get information? And that's why it was so important to get the Discord out. We started to add all of the states, so now if you're listening to this and you don't want to be on Facebook because you just don't like their politics or their policies, you can now sign up on the Discord, or go right to the Discord and join your states and join all the chat rooms, but join your state specifically. We will have, we've got a channel there for training, and we'll be able to talk about it. And there's a little bit more freedom over on that platform as well. But it's just another way that they can communicate. And Paul, let me tell you, man, I watched that Discord, and the guys are chatting up left and right there. It's something that they're really diving into. And again, it's a great place to pass information along. They share pictures, they share stories and stuff, and it's great to see that. And that's what I do love the most about this organization and this family and community. Going back to what you said, about Sunday morning waking up and seeing all of them communicating, the part that got me, kind of in the feels there is when we arrived to the range. So for all of you that aren't aware, obviously Spectre was a 2-day event, single day, single class each day. And they were both supposed to be live fires. And Sunday morning, Friday, I got a tan setting up the range. Saturday, it was overcast, and wait, what part?
Setting up the range. Well, I
I
remember a lot
mean,
of
listen,
rounds going down range while
okay, well,
Jack
yeah,
and I were setting up the range.
right. Listen,
So
I think I moved a couple of things. I do remember asking Jack where he wanted me to put a couple of things, but I did have
a
to do some
couple
filming.
things,
Right. Anyway, I got some color.
as you can
Saturday,
see, I didn't.
right, right. You were wearing a hat. I was not. Saturday, it was overcast. It was a good day. There was a couple of quick little showers, rain showers, and then Sunday we woke up to just all hell. We got pictures of the range. The shoot house that was built was just completely blown over, and it was a bad day. Where I'm going with this is we got to the range, which is about an hour from Oklahoma HQ. We drive out to the range, an hour out. The entire class was there waiting.
Well, probably
Canopies.
because we were late.
I mean, Paul, there's just things you don't tell. There's things you don't
Hey,
say,
we're
right?
honest on these things.
Right.
We were
Yeah.
about 15 minutes late. It's okay. It
Right.
it all worked out, but
So they were there, canopies up, waiting, dressed in rain gear, waiting to start. Now the range
with
was
no
not
idea
with,
what the
yeah,
heck we were doing.
right.
Yeah,
And
it
yeah, and
was
at
it
that
was
point, we really had no idea what we were doing. Anyway, long story short, we decided to kind of shift on the fly, and we moved the class to ZERT Oklahoma HQ. It was going to be a dry fire class all day. And within 30 minutes, the 14 of us that were there, right? Because we did have a full class, plus you and I were there. So that's 14. We had that range broken down, loaded up. By the way, it was pouring. We were getting rained on. We had that range uh, broken down, loaded up in the trailer, and we were off, and we were heading back to the classroom for the HQ there to then set that classroom up, or set that range up, to then get back into it. Now, this was all, I mean, what was that? By the time we started, it was noon, right? Roughly?
uh, I don't think it was noon yet. I think
Okay.
we still had a couple hours because I think we
Okay.
ended up, I can't remember exactly how long we trained For some
Oh,
reason, I want to think it say it was like 7
oh no, yeah, it was
or
out there. We
so.
were,
I
I
mean,
think we were
we
there.
definitely put in over 8-hour day just because I
Yeah,
wanted to make sure they got
yeah.
their money's
So
worth, so to speak.
yeah, so and it was amazing. It was intense, and it was so awesome to watch it. Now on Saturday, we had Cody out there, and he was taking pictures and videoing the entire thing up close. I mean, he was right there with you guys. I had the drone up, so we got a lot of great aerial footage. All that is being put together. And then Saturday, it was obviously a lot more condensed. We were real close. I mean, I had a little bird's eye view, and we got to see it all a lot more up close. No drone, but it was pretty awesome to watch. Um, what's some of your takeaway on the entire weekend?
Man, I got a list here, and you just completely didn't follow along. But that's the cool thing about us talking about this stuff, and this stuff isn't rehearsed.
No,
But
it's not.
my list goes in chronological order, which is kind of funny
Got it.
because you
All
you
right.
went from Sunday to Saturday. I just want to talk about a few things
Sure,
starting
let's do it.
off with the first day. And I
Okay.
don't know if you remember this, but to me, the first day was Friday, and the meet and greet, which
Yeah, of course.
Jack always puts on amazing meet and greet.
Yeah.
And the cool takeaways that I have, he's got this artist. It doesn't matter if it's Genesis or Spectre, man, they make this big, I don't know, it's like a 4 foot by 4 foot painting
Yeah.
of the Spectre picture, and it turns out
Yeah.
awesome. We
Yeah.
all sign it. Man, it makes everybody feel like they're part of something,
Yeah,
which
of
is really
course.
cool.
Yeah.
And then uh the cool thing about I think every week he has a meet and greet, he has new members of ZERT. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
2 new members there, which was cool. It wasn't just
Dude,
everybody there to grab
l
food. They're always getting new members, which is
right.
amazing.
Literally, when we walked in, he introduced me to Sean and Mickey Collins that were brand new members of ZERT that day, literally signed up that day and were at the
Just
meet
to
and
hear
greet
me talk.
just to hear Paul talk. It was wild.
And talk I
Um,
did.
you did. But it was great, man. I loved it. In fact, seeing guys like that and bringing his wife in, and they met Jack through the other. Jack was talking at the OK2A thing, and he talks about ZERT, and there you go. You got a bunch of new members. Um, and that meet and greet was, man, it's their meet and greets are always awesome. First of all, big thank you to Debbie. She puts out a spread of food that is just unrivaled. And thankfully we got to enjoy more of it on Sunday. But between the members bringing desserts, bringing alcohol, because we got to enjoy a little bit of spirits while we were sitting there talking, hanging around, talking to everybody. We didn't do cigars this time, but we got to sit there and just have conversations with a bunch of people. You got to do a little bit of your uh, safety brief beforehand, so that gave us more time on the range. But I just love seeing all those guys. It's a full house every time.
Yeah, it actually worked out really good. I gave a safety brief and like a little bit of an intro to the class. I think a few of you guys thought it was going to drag out for a while. I knew where I was going to cut off, but got up there, and my whole thing is just so there's people there that not everybody there was taking the class.
No,
Not
very
everybody that
true.
was taking the class was there, but I could
True.
give a little intro safety brief to get everybody, you know, make sure they understand my standard, and not to mention the fact that like, and I always talk about this, we're going to be shooting live guns around each other.
Yeah.
For those of you them that don't know me, well, this is what I'm all about as an instructor. This is
Yeah.
an opportunity to kind of get to know me, ask questions, have a little fun, joke around a little bit,
Yeah.
but we it like to me, Spectre started weeks before that.
Yeah. Of
But that
course.
whole meet and greet, I mean, this, we keep calling this stuff an event, whether it's an event or a class, and kind of churching it up or whatever. I mean, this product there isn't just about the day that you show up to the range. There's a lot that goes into this stuff.
Oh yeah.
And when you look at like me talking to Jack weeks ahead of time, basically putting a plan together.
Yeah.
And I'm, jumping ahead, man. After I left Oklahoma, I started designing a shoot house for my range. So
Yeah.
when Spectre comes here, it's a good product.
Yeah.
I'm not I don't have a plan for a tornado. So thank goodness I'm in the middle of Pennsylvania.
Right.
But you know what? You
Yeah.
got to have contingency plans.
That's
And that's
it.
what was
That's it.
awesome about Oklahoma. And we'll get into that.
And just to give, I mean, like you just said, Spectre was birthed months ago. I think it was probably around July, August, and it did start with a back and forth between you and I, and you had this vision and this plan, and I mean, it was a kind of a good back and forth with information and desire on what you wanted to do, and based off a little bit about what we did with Genesis. And it is an event, Paul, because when you go and you take a rifle class anywhere else, or even a singleton CQB that you and I took, you just do reps all day, reps all day, reps all day. Our events are you doing reps and learning to prepare you to utilize those in something that is going to be meaningful. And that's why it's more an event.
Towards the end, maybe.
Well, right. Maybe towards the end. I don't know. Anybody that has been a part of Spectre or Genesis knows what we're talking about. You don't just finish the last rep and at the end of the day go pick up brass and sit there and wait for your certificate. You're going to earn it. And that's what's awesome about it. And that's why it's an event and it's not just a training class. We've put on training classes before. We did a training class at your range. We did training classes out in California. We did training classes down in North Carolina. We have the ability to do training classes, and that's what I say to members when they reach out. Get us a student, tell us where you are. We'll find a range, and I'll send Paul, or we'll send Jamie, or we'll send another instructor down to teach that class. If you want an event, we're going to plan it and we're going to put it together. Like I said, this is Spectre phase 1. It's complete. Now, there will be a phase 2 and so on. So it's very interesting, but it always will start with a meet and greet on Fridays, by the way.
And we're not even, and I forgot to even cover this. It's on my notes. But before even the meet and greet, we got off our flight in Oklahoma, drove straight out to the range, met Jack. And anytime that I set up a range or anytime I do this stuff.
Got to also give a shout out to the range. Recon by Fire,
Well,
Bud Webb.
that's what I was about to talk about right now.
All right, go ahead. Finish it off.
But yeah, I'll let Chris give a little shout out. But anytime I ever teach a class, there's always some type of controversy behind it. And I won't tell you what I put in my luggage the last time we went to Oklahoma for Genesis, but I had an item in my luggage that when I made it out there, I was like, yep, never doing that again. That was kind of dumb. And this time when I told Chris what I kind of wanted to do towards the end of the class, to kind of make this kind of exciting, Chris was like, man, I hope you got a contingency plan. And just to throw it out there, because none of these things are ever going to be the same, I kind of had to talk the range owner into letting me kidnap him. And Chris is like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I was like, dude, I have the power of persuasion here. I can make anything happen. And after about Jack and Chris went down the range, they checked it out, came back, and Chris was like, well, what happened? I was like, yep, we can kidnap him. It was God. Just, and I don't know I don't know how he felt about that. I think he had a good time. He's probably never been kidnapped on his own range before, but we had some logistic stuff to work out. But man, part of it's got to be fun. It's got to be fun for the students. It's got to be fun for the range owner. It's got to be fun for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
When it's all said and done, hopefully it's a little bit some cool content that you guys will be able to see in some videos that are going to be made.
Yeah. The reason why I was kind of like, oh God, is because I'm always looking at it from the top down, and I'm just like, oh boy, like what's this liability wise? Obviously we're going to a range to shoot. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? But Bud was great. And like I said, can't say enough about his range. It's he built that bay for us, for Jack and his crew. It is a long range shooting range. 1,100 yards. You want to go learn PRS? Go out there, and he'll teach you. And he told me when you guys were doing the class, I sat there. I was talking to him for a second. He said, "Yeah, within 14 shots, we have you out ring and steel at 1,100 yards. I was like, that's pretty awesome. But yeah, so day
Yeah,
one,
we weren't just on the far bay. We're using the entire range from the front gate back. We're doing patrolling exercises. We're doing stuff that, most of the time during a regular CQB class, you don't learn how to set up in a patrol base. You don't learn, ORP activities. You don't learn leadership. I'm assigning fire team leaders, squad
right.
leaders. We're assigning position. We're kidnapping the range owner. It's just cool stuff.
I
And
almost kidnapped
it's
the range owner's dog.
oh dude, that freaking dog was amazing. But yeah, yeah, that was an awesome dog.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy?
Oh,
We're
that's
doing a
good. Yeah.
patrolling exercise and we come around the corner and that dog knew something was not right. It's just it's
Yeah.
like, dude,
Yeah.
that dog is hired.
Yeah.
That dog's the
Exactly.
best early warning out here. And it was a good time.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that's pretty much, I think I'm done talking about Friday.
Okay.
Kudos to Oklahoma Desert.
Yeah.
Great, great range, great group of people, great meet and greet. I mean, it's always a good time.
Always.
I can see how he packs those meet and greets. They
Oh
talk
yeah.
about valuable information. They're always learning their comms package. It. Jack's doing great things, and
Yeah.
Oklahoma Desert's doing great things.
Yeah. That group in its entirety is such a great group. It's a good mix of people with different tools for the toolbox, and that's what I love, and that's what makes it so interesting. With all of their knowledge, they do have a great group out there. And again, there are those groups in every state. It's just that Oklahoma is very, very active with it. They make sure that they are pushing and driving this ZERT message forward all the time. So,
And here's the deal, and I'll go ahead and I'll be on record to say this is when we first discussed Spectre, we talked about where are we going to do this, what class. And it's like,
right.
well, we're in the. I mean, we want to fill these classes up,
Yeah.
and I don't mind doing this anywhere across the country, but
Yep.
it's almost like Oklahoma is going to fill this up, so
Yeah.
we don't have to go out there and be like, hey, it's a month out, this and
Right.
that is like we can
Yeah.
kind of depend on. So I want other states to step up. So
Oh, yeah.
Spectre phase 2, man, let's do it in North Carolina. Let's do it in Texas. Let's
Yeah.
reach out, go across the US.
Yeah.
But man, Oklahoma, they put their money where their mouth is each
It-
class. And
yeah.
it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, and this was birthed by them out there running range days, and they had this set up, and we were kind of like, okay, this is what you guys are doing. Let's get a class going. And we communicated with Jack back and forth about it, and he got 17 members committed before the class even went up online. And that's what's awesome about it is the moment it went up, it was almost sold out. And then it sold out probably within the first 3 or 4 weeks. It was done. So much so where one of the guys who you probably would have been a bit happy if he didn't make it because you wouldn't have got aggressive brass smacking you in the face. Tommy almost didn't make it into the class because the class was sold out. But unfortunately, we had a couple members that fell ill, family issues, they couldn't make it. So we were able to get people that were waiting for the class into the class. So it
I
was
don't
it
have a
was
problem with
awesome.
Tommy. I
You
have a
just have a
problem with
problem.
Tommy's rifle.
Right, right. Tommy's rifle. I mean, watching it from on Saturday, watching that brass eject, I was like, "What the hell is going on?"
His
And
his PCC was ejecting brass like 25 yards, and one of them caught me right in the nose, and I was disoriented. I was asking for a tournament. I'm like, well, I
oh,
don't
it
know if
was
that'll
yeah.
work, but
I think we have
it
that
was definitely a good time.
I
So
think we have it in slow motion. So,
yeah, okay, I need to get
which
in.
obviously, and Saturday was just for me watching it from my side was awesome to watch for a couple of different reasons. Um, you know, without going too much, we had our flat range, so to speak, where you started them off. You had that the house, and then you had that glass house, which for me, the coolest thing was seeing those guys use that training tool.
Yeah, one of the things that I try to do in my classes is I hate, and I think we limited our class to 12 students. I was hoping somewhere between 10 and 12, and we had 12 sign up for each class. For I don't know what reasons, a couple people didn't show up, but but I hate just, putting two people through the room through a shoot house and having like 10 people stand around and just watch. So it's like, to me, I want everybody to get their money's worth. So whenever I do these classes, I'll set up, we call it in Ranger Battalion, the glass house. Basically, I put out cones in the exact shape as the shoot house, center fed room, corner fed hallway. So then individuals that aren't either going through or the next team that's up, they can go through that house and kind of practice as a team and get their, work, basically just work on their fundamentals, work on their points of domination, work on whichever area. And the cool thing about it is, like, I'll have a team go through the house, and then I'm not going to see that team go through for another 5 runs.
Right.
And then the next time I go through the house, I'm kind of looking at it, I'm like, dude, this is like 100% better. How the heck? But then I
Right.
remember I set up the glass house,
Yeah.
and it gives them an opportunity, because usually most of the teams, there was somebody that was a little bit more experienced
Yep.
than the other person. And he could kind of lead them into, hey,
Yep.
this is what you do. When you come to the house, this is what you do on your, the breach point. And it just, to me, I mean, it's just setting some cones up,
Right.
and let them work through it. And whenever I give an AR at the end of the class, and half the class is like, man, I really like the glass house. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
that's awesome,
Yeah.
because that's why I set it up. And you don't
Yeah.
know if that translates to everybody,
Yeah.
but usually
Now,
it does.
now you as an instructor, obviously your focus is on the live fire and the shoot house. Did you even realize how much they were using that glass house?
Yeah, I mean, I'd look up there between teams,
Okay.
and I had my SOP. I don't know if you remember. I put that barrel in the middle of the range, and
Yeah.
there were several times where, when a team went through the shoot house, I'm sitting there and I'm going, next team. Who's like, I want a team being ready to go through the shoot
Right.
house. Well,
Right.
the team was in the glass house. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, this is where the money is. But the team was in there training in the glass
Yeah.
house. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm the next team. I was like,
Yeah.
well, get out of the class. This is the bread and butter. Like,
Yep.
or that's the bread and butter. This is the meat and potatoes.
Right.
But
Yeah.
people were so into doing those reps and figuring, figuring out their teamwork
Oh yeah.
and everything, that they'd forget about the shoot house. So
Yeah.
I got to the point, it's like, hey, as soon as that team goes in, you guys need to pay attention. I need a team in the hole. But
Yeah.
then I got teams just like, well, I can sneak in one more run in the
Oh
glass
yeah.
house,
Yep.
and then they get to talking and figuring stuff out. Then I'm waiting. I
Yeah.
was like, guys, I mean, I realized the importance of the glass house, and we saw it the next day, because
Right.
technically all we did was work in a glass house the
Glass
next
house.
day. But
Right.
I think most of the students saw the importance of those reps. And the cool thing, without there being walls, you're still entering. I just put a ton of cones on the ground. Let's, dude, I'm not saying that I invented this. We did this in Ranger Battalion. If we weren't going to the field as a squad leader or fire team leader, your platoon sergeant's like, man, if you don't figure out something to train, you're going to be picking up cigarette butts for the rest of the day. So we'd be like,
Right.
let's get
Right.
outside. Moorfield was right next door. And you see teams going out there and they have their own, and all we're using is these little soccer cones.
Yep.
You take a whole stack of soccer cones and you put out, dude, Ranger Battalion work on the basics every day. It's like, they just sit out there and they work on the basics, because, we preach it all the time. Advanced shooting is just the basics done better. And I guarantee you, the Rangers do the basics better than most units out there. And I think that breakdown, the people in the class will start. It's just like rifle fundamentals.
Right.
Everybody wants to be high speed,
Yep.
but when we get out there and we start shooting, and Jack starts complaining because people are shooting clips off their targets, well, maybe
Yeah.
you guys need to go back to the basics of rifle marksmanship,
Yeah.
accuracy along with speed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that, the whole glass house, and the biggest thing, I'm gonna let you talk here in the middle. Like I talked about
No.
at the end of day one and day two, the end of day one, I go to every student and I was like, hey, I want a sustainment and improvement. and I need this feedback because I want to make these classes better. I can always be a better instructor.
Yeah.
It's a journey, not a, and I don't think I know everything. But when students look at me, it's like, man, that glass house was awesome. That's what I
Yeah.
really liked. It's
Yeah.
not that they like shooting, but that's what they brought up, the
Yeah.
glass house. So it just shows you, because they're not just standing around waiting for the next team. And it's important to watch those teams go in.
Oh,
But
yeah.
once that team breaches that door, the people on the I'm the only person that sees them. Or
Right.
Cody in a little nook with his
Right.
camera trying to get,
Yeah.
action shots or stuff. The
Yeah.
glass house, you can see. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the importance of it is phenomenal. It's
Yeah.
a really good
And that's
training
why
aid.
and that's why I was enjoying that. I was able to basically keep the drone up over the live fire and kind of just let it do its thing, and then I would take my eyes off the screen and I'm watching the guys work through the glass house and work together and kind of communicate and move and say, okay, doing this. They literally made the errors going through the first time, listened to you correct them, and then they went out and they applied that in the glass house. And like you said, they started progressing and knocking the rust off and kind of getting better with it. And we had, and this is what I love, we have usually all levels of students, from got guys out there that are on the job, they're active LE, to guys that are no longer, or they're out of the military, to just your basic everyday civilian concealed firearm carrier that is wanting to evolve into this, or learn, obviously, get another tool to put in the toolbox. So,
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not going to talk too much smack about other courses I've seen, but I've taken CQB courses, and the things that I hate is like when you're teaching room clearing, it's like, okay, go in the room, get to your point of domination. Everybody looks at each other and gives each other five high fives, and it's an index.
right.
I don't think we did a single run like that. It's like,
No,
when you clear that room, now what's your job? What's to get out of the building?
right.
It's like there's still more stuff to do.
Yeah.
And just like when, Chris and I went up to the SIG Academy, and just because you shot all the bad guys doesn't mean all the work's done. There's
That's
targets to
funny.
be cleared. There's a
Right.
ton of stuff to do. And I just hate just stopping. And that was the main thing I wanted to put emphasis on, was there's still work to be done.
Yeah. And that's great that you say that, because I do remember that up at SIG when we completed it, we were, high-fiving Kyle, and we just walked out of the house. Every time they cleared that second room, you were like, okay, you're not done. Like, and they had to clear out of that building, of that structure. So, and even on Sunday, they did the same thing. When they got through both rooms, they had to then clear back. And I really
And they
like
had to
that.
clear outside. It didn't matter if it was a complete downpour or not. So,
But yeah, true, true. And the
but
bathroom that stumped.
oh man, that
That
bathroom was
bathroom
horrible.
was, yeah, that bathroom. And
But
yeah,
it was a great training. It was
yes.
great for training. The door
Yeah, it
setup,
was. Yeah, that
eh,
door setup was wild. Plus the desk in the way. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, and watching two experienced guys try to work through that was pretty intense.
yeah, it was definitely a good time. And we'll get into day two in a little bit. But yeah, that day one, and this is what impressed me even more about Oklahoma ZERT, because you'll do a firearms class and you'll teach a class, and anytime somebody's on the line, you got the people in the back just smoking and joking and having a good time, not paying attention. And to me, if I'm in the back loading my magazines, I might be able to learn something that instructor says to another student while I'm not on the line. And anytime that I came out of the shoot house, very rarely were people just like back in the back, not paying attention. There were people in the glass house. There were people that was watching the team going through. Just everybody that entire day just seemed to just be a sponge and ready to absorb information. It was just crazy to watch,
Yeah.
day one and day two.
Yeah.
But day one, of course, we had the live fire. We went through a ton of rounds,
Yep.
had a good time. So everybody was safe. And then I think the final, I don't even, man, I hope that there was when we started shooting the last time we shot, and I'm not going to give too much out there, but In the military, I talk about, anytime I basically, the last little thing that we did, I divide the class into 3 teams, and it has everything to do with what I learned in the military. And
Yep.
if you go to Ranger School or any type of unit that does offensive or defensive operations, you always have, assault, security, and support. So I made the class assault and security and support. And I got to tell you, for the last thing that we did, it sounded great to me, but I'm in the moment, like there was a wall of lead that was being put down range. It seemed like that entire time.
Oh yeah.
And to me, it was intense. I can't imagine like somebody standing back, because I talk about the different types of leadership.
Yep.
A fire team leader leads from the front. I was with the elements that were moving forward, but you were somewhat in the back. So you got to see the big picture of everything going on. I would have loved to have been in the back to
Oh
see
yeah.
that big picture. It would have been just amazing to watch.
I was the drone pilot at that point. I was the drone pilot, just there to provide aerial coverage and support, and that was it. It was just intense watching it all transpire. It's funny that you say that. Even today, like after we get done here, I've got to go film a football game, and I've done this for quite a few months now. And when you are looking through a viewfinder on a camera or looking at a screen, you're only focused on little pieces and you lose the big picture. When I had the drone up, I was able to see the entire picture versus just looking through a lens. So watching Cody work and film this stuff, he probably missed a lot of what was happening around him. I did not. And
But
it's
Cody
intense.
had such great, even the pictures I've seen, he's got
Oh yeah.
such a
Oh,
great
great.
eye with
Oh
his
yeah.
angles,
Yep.
and stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty, it's
Yeah, it's
always
great.
cool to
But
see his picks.
you are focused on that one shot that you are trying to capture, that one angle of looking down, and you're not seeing everything else. Seeing it from the way that I saw it, you really get to see the entire group working together, which is very, very exciting. But we're not going to give too much of that away. Sorry,
I
not
think that's why we're going to talk about that.
right.
And unfortunately, all that stuff didn't happen the second day because, like you said, we showed up to the range. The shoot house was gone. Jack sent a picture when he got up to the range. And it's like, well, okay, number one, we got to rebuild this. The second thing that we had to look at was, even if we don't shoot, what I didn't want to happen is for Jack to have to come back out to the range and tear it down, whatever else we did. So it wasn't a decision that Chris, me, and Jack made. This was a decision that the students made.
Yeah.
And we asked them, it's like, what would you guys like to do? Knowing that we were going to teach the class out there. There were some limiting logistical factors, like the first strike of lightning. I think we were done,
Right.
if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken. Just a range roll. Completely
Yep.
understand that. We have metal guns in our hands.
Yep.
Oklahoma's pretty flat. So
Yep. Wasn't a lot of opportunity.
So I think the students, I don't think a lot of them, I don't think everybody was happy. I think some of the people were like, hey, I signed up for a live fire class. I understood that. I came out to teach a live fire class.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, everybody or the majority agreed, let's take this indoors. And at that point, they didn't know what to expect. And
No.
and saying
Just
that,
to,
go ahead.
well, hold on, just to, and I wasn't happy about it initially either, but I wasn't happy about it because even if we did it outside, we weren't going to be able to get that awesome footage, and I would have loved to have gotten that. And I knew that we were going to be limited with it. So I wasn't either. And I wasn't sure what kind of pushback we were going to get when we proposed it, but they seemed, they seemed to understand. And then
Yeah, we looked at all kinds of things. We didn't have, when I do competition shooting matches and it's raining like that, you have these basically target covers. It's a garbage bag. It's a clear bag you put over the cardboard target. We didn't have any of that. Targets would have been ruined. It was raining so bad. And I say that even though as we're driving back to Oklahoma ZERT, the sky opened up. It was beautiful. the sun's out. It's like, yeah, it's going to start raining again.
Yeah.
Despite what everybody thinks, it's going to start. I looked it up on my radar, and
Yeah.
it's like, this is the calm before the storm again. But yeah, we
Yeah.
decided to do an indoor one.
Yeah.
Everybody participated. I think it was record time. We put everything back into Jack's trailer. The range owner came out to inspect it. I think we had put some of his target sticks in the trailer. We got those
Yeah.
out. He
Yep.
blessed us off, and we got on the road. And as soon as we got to Oklahoma ZERT, I mean, it's when I woke up that morning, I had already started devising a plan for an indoor. Like, I've already started working it in my head. It didn't go as planned because we started setting those tables up to use tables.
Right.
Fortunately, Jack is a carpenter. So we went into his corner of his warehouse, and he had a bunch of plywood,
Yep.
and we started dragging plywood out. We started making center fed, corner fed rooms, and we had open doors, we had closed doors, and
Yep.
almost everybody, we started participating, putting stuff away, putting chairs away, tables away, clearing everything out.
Yep.
And by the time you went up,
To the
no,
little
you
perch
climbed
up
a
there, the
ladder, got an
mezzanine.
overhead view of everything, and
Yep.
I started looking at it after it was done. I was like, you know what? This actually might work out pretty good. We got a pretty
Oh
good
yeah.
layout of, I think it ended up being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms.
Yeah.
And took a little bit to make, and then we started teaching.
Yeah.
Started a little slow, and then the training got faster and
Yeah.
faster. And by the time we got done, by the end of the day, I was getting in the stack,
Oh
and
yeah.
we started doing 2, 3 man. I don't want to call them free flow drills because I don't want anybody that's listening is like, oh my goodness, you're doing free flow, but it's got to be fun.
Yeah, of
It's got to be
course.
fun. And
Yeah.
we had 2 students there, a son and a father that were, let's just say, a little bit experienced. And once they started rolling and everybody started keying off them, then man, you got guys in there sweating. They're
Oh
going
God,
through
yeah.
so much, sweating, just getting
Yeah.
into it. And by the time I got done, and then I looked at you, I think you were drinking a little bit, but you were happy. Everybody was happy. And
Me?
then we're not done yet. We got to clean
No.
everything up.
Yeah, we did have to clean everything up. I did. I got to tell you, I sat back for a second and I did. I poured myself a bourbon as it was a dry range. I mean, there was no live fire, and we were wrapping up towards the end of the day. You had people that were peeling off. They're like, okay, I got to go. I've got to go. And I sat back and enjoyed a bourbon while I was watching you instruct and people absorbing that knowledge. And just I had the opportunity to talk to a couple of members while we were sitting there while the drills were still being run, and it was great. I absolutely loved it. I think anybody that had reservations when we initially proposed the idea, I think those were dispelled. I think they learned a lot. Sure, they didn't get to pull the trigger and hear a bang, click bang, none of that, but they learned tactics on a whole different level. They learned the the methodology behind it so much clearer. Where I don't know, for me looking at it, I think they got more out of day 2 than they did day 1. Now, maybe
It's
that's because I wasn't able to get as involved on day 1 because I had the drone and I was up over and I wasn't right there, but I was right there into it. I was able to watch it from both sides, you know, on day 2.
It's funny you should say that because we actually had a student that showed back up for day 2. And
Yeah.
I think somebody didn't show up for day 2. So he kind of took their spot. So he did day 1 and day 2. And at the end, you asked him,
Yeah.
you're like, which one did you like? And he was like, man, I liked them both. They
He
were
did.
both valuable in their own way. Of
Yeah.
course, he liked shooting. But
Yeah.
when you're looking at like CQB, dry fire CQB in that house, the things we didn't have day 1, and it's really hard to have for a initial CQB class. I don't want to say because of the danger of safety, but you crawl before you walk, before you run. You don't have furniture. You don't have
Right.
things that you got to clear around. You
Right.
don't have obstacles in your way that you can, trip over.
Right.
We could Man, we could turn the lights off if we wanted to. There's
Oh,
so many benefits of
dude, that would have been
moving
awesome.
on. There's so many benefits of, we had dead space
Right.
that we could clear behind without
Yeah.
worrying about somebody, pointing a rifle. Now, in
Yeah.
saying this, we did have rifles that we're shooting just for these when these videos come out. I'm a sole believer that when a rifle is checked, double checked, quadruple checked, and you put a flag in it, it is a safe firearm. In saying that, we use students as OP4. We use students to basically give an example of if a bad guy's in the corner, you treat that as an opposing threat. This is stuff that we only covered one time, only because one of the students asked a question on day one, and we couldn't
Right.
even demonstrate it. All I did was talk through it.
Right.
Every team did it on day two,
Yeah.
and it was just awesome to watch. I mean, we got into 3-person stacks, person stacks, and they're running and gunning it, and it was just a good time.
Yeah. It was. It was. I really enjoyed it from my side. You come out and you run these, and Genesis, obviously we had two instructors. This past one we didn't, it was just you as an instructor, and you didn't have an AI. You had me there as just to help you if you needed it, but you didn't need it. Jack was there on day one to provide some assistance, I think, with Brock was there as well. But day two, I was able, because I was in that elevated position on that mezzanine area, I was able to kind of, there was a couple of times, even at one time where, your super squad there, not you super squad, but the guys from KC, and I think you were in that stack, and you came out of that center fed room, and I stopped because I knew that room wasn't clear, and you guys both left that room, and everyone's like, "Yep, no, it's clear." And I was like, "No, are you sure?" And that's when, because like you said, there were obstacles in there, and I think I asked you, I don't remember if it was day one or day two. I said, "Okay, listen, what at what point when there's beds, who?" Because all of the clearing that we were doing was all eye level and up, right? There was, like you said, with that, the way that it was set up, there was no obstacles to look behind, and so it was very cool to see that, and to kind of see that evolution and be able to kind of point it out when I noticed things that were not right, just picking up on you as an instructor.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing with with doing the reps in that type of shoot house environment where you have people that are, and I'll bring up Callaghan at the SIG Academy. We're shooting simunitions at paper targets, and he's hiding those things.
Oh yeah.
He's hiding the targets, but real life, you can get into little cubby holes,
Yep.
and we get so focused on linear, two-dimensional, and Jack's little, his little warehouse there. I mean, if you're a bad guy, where are you going to hide? Probably where you were, overhead. And then, so people
Yeah.
had to, you in a three, one of the things we always talk about, and I'll talk a little bit about how I teach CQB and some of the stuff that I hate. I hate a 4-person stack where the number one guy is pulling security on the door, and the number 2, 3, and 4 guys got their hand on their shoulder, their guns pointed down, and they're not doing anything. It's like, dude, there's work to be done. Pull
Right.
security somewhere until
Yeah.
you decide to go in that room. And so, when these guys get used to that, man, they go into a room and the number one guy's got security on the door. The number 2 guys got, another angle on the door. The number 3 guys got, security high. Number 4 guys got rear security. Everybody's starting to realize that there's work to be done, and you just don't
Right.
stand there not doing anything. And it doesn't matter if it's, when you're going into a room, when you're coming out of a room, when you're just standing around, there's something to do, and most of the time, if it's not, it's the same thing with how, I don't care if it's CQB or any other battle drill out there, man, your day-to-day life, there's always somebody that's waiting to be told to do something. Well, I don't know what to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Find work.
Yeah.
There is work out there. Find it. You don't need to be told it.
Right.
There's a couple times it was hilarious. I'm not going to mention any names, but they'll go in and clear a wall, and somebody's just like pointing a rifle into a corner, just facing that corner.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like,
Right.
oh, security into a wall. Like, fine. And they're like, oh, I was like, oh, it takes like common sense here. Just think
Yeah.
about what you're doing. And
But
after a while, they started getting it. So
right.
you're
Exactly.
watching that
Yeah.
progression.
Yeah. And that was really cool, to watch the progression of people take this class, and by the end of the day, running these drills over and over again, they evolved. And that's what it's all about, right? I mean, that's what these classes are, these classes that we put on, these events that we do, is all about. It's having people step out of their comfort zone and learn something that we hope they never have to do, but we want to arm them with the skill set to do it should they need to. um we talked about that, you talked about that in the opening. When should you clear your house? I mean, if you show up to your house and your front door is open, do you go and you clear your house? No, you don't. You call the police. If you're in your house, somebody breaks in and you need to get your kids and your family out, that's when you start to employ these skills that you're learning. And that's something we'll always kind of drive that message home. um, Guys, this was phase one of Spectre. And we're like I said, and I always tell you, we keep these shows to an hour, but we always have the ability to talk for 4 hours when it comes to stuff like this, because there's so much that we can and want to talk about. um but at the end of the day, I don't want to give too much, because I want you to come experience Spectre for yourself. And like Paul said, we may not do a Spectre like we just did in Rose, Oklahoma. The next one may be different. It could be different because the facility is different, or we're able to do something different or do more, but you will get the best experience possible when we put it on.
Yeah, it's definitely, and that's, every range has different logistical concerns, guaranteed whenever I do PA Spectre, it'll be a lot different just because, my range is laid out a little bit different than everybody else's. And
Right.
I know what I can get away with. And I just know on PA Spectre, the range owner is not going to be kidnapped.
Well, no,
It
we'll have
might
to
be
kidnap somebody else.
yeah, like the owner of ZERT, maybe. Yeah, we'll do something like that. So,
Well, folks, listen, like I said, I know that there's probably a lot more to talk about, but I never want to take too much of your time, because I appreciate it and it's valuable. And whether you have an hour long drive or less, you may catch this in two parts. But we can always come back and revisit CQB as a methodology in the future. But for today, I just want to thank you for spending some of your time to hear a little bit about what we did in Oklahoma. But you're never going to hear all of it. You're going to have to come and experience it for yourself if you want the full gamut, so to speak. So um, that's all I got. Until next time, you guys stay safe. Paul?
yeah, man. The only thing that I don't think I really talked about a lot that's on my list here is, and we talked about it before, guys. It's important no matter what you're doing out there, at what aspect of your life, is everything doesn't go as planned all the time, and it's good to have contingency plans out there. And day two shows you that even though you sign up for day one and you want to shoot, contingency plans, even though it's not what you plan, man, it still can be a great time, but you need to have them. And it just shows that, ZERT is, we got ZERT all around the US. We got so many, there's just so many natural disasters out there that could change what you're expected to do for that day. Man, don't let that stuff define you. Always have a plan, keep moving forward, keep bettering yourself. And yeah, man, set that example.
Right.
So
And I think,
keep on doing great things.
yeah, and I think contingency plans is something that we will probably do an episode about, and we will base it a little bit off of what we did, because we just gave you a little bit about what happened. But there was a lot that went into even getting to that point. But that contingency plan, what we put together on Sunday, you can extrapolate that and put that into play in many different parts of your life. And it is definitely something that we will come back to. So until next time, we'll talk to you guys very, very soon. And until then, you stay safe. And ZP002 out.
XP 0311 Delta out.